I am super excited. I've been a big fan of Senator Britt for a long time, and she joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. And I want you to know have been praying for the entire Turning Point family, for Erica, for the children. We are lifting you all up in prayer, and just know that you are not alone. And your example and your willingness to continue to speak truth, continue to spread the message and the foundation that Charlie laid. We are all so grateful, and I just want you to know that.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate it. Again, obviously, very, very difficult times, but I think continuing on to fight the conservative mission is what Charlie would have wanted each and every one of us to do. Speaking of prayer, which again we appreciate, you introduced a resolution with a couple different senators about
Yeah.
religious freedom recently. Can you tell us about that? What does that look like?
Look, I think it's never been more important to make sure that we are outspoken about protecting religious freedom and religious
Mm.
education in America. I mean, it is the cornerstone, it is a building block of our great nation. And so making sure that we can continue to do that moving forward. I mean, we literally have, a whole group of people that seem to want to take out anybody who continues to step up and spread the word or is willing to talk about their faith. And so we thought, obviously, making sure that we raise our voice together as one and say that we believe in this, we're going to continue to fight for this, and we're going to make sure that this cornerstone of American democracy is protected, we thought was just as important now as ever.
Yeah, 100%, and it's honestly really concerning. And I don't want to drag you into a hyper partisan conversation about what we've seen all across the internet in kind of the response to Charlie's assassination. But it appears to me that it's a lack of God that is the biggest overall problem.
Listen, Jobob, you're right. Like, we took, as a nation, took our eyes off the Lord. And
Mm.
when you do that, this is what happens. And so, the foundation that Charlie laid, and Charlie's ability to not only speak truth to people in a way that they could hear him, but he knew the word, the
Mm.
living word, and was able to utilize that in everyday conversations. I have seen that inspire so many within our own community at home, here on the Capitol, and literally across the country. And so knowing how important that is, and knowing kind of what we're up against, and seeing for so long, I mean, don't you see, just even over the last 10 months since President Trump came back into office, and we have Republican control of the House and the Senate, and we have started kind of pulling the curtain back, so to speak, of all of the things that Joe Biden had done and Democrats had pushed over the last several years.
Hmm.
It is startling. And the more that we pull the curtain back, the more we see how much work we have to do still yet in front of us. And I think getting back to our Judeo-Christian values, reminding people what those are, putting not just our own eyes back to the Lord, but this nation's eyes back on the Lord, is critical to the continued success of our country. And I think when we're looking and we're fighting for the American dream for so many, that we know, as a result of Joe Biden's failed policies and his emphasis on liberal left-wing agenda, has gone out of reach for so many people. I mean, I am the
Mm.
subcommittee chair for housing, for instance, on the Senate Banking Committee, and housing is unaffordable. You can look back, not too long ago, where people bought their first home at 25, 26 years old. Now people are 38 years or older, if they have the opportunity to achieve that. And that is such a critical component, and one example of where we have taken the American dream out of reach. But in my personal opinion, it is because we as a nation have distanced ourselves from the Lord, and distanced ourselves from the values that we hold so dear. And I, for one, believe that it is more important now than ever to stand up and make sure that we're speaking this truth.
Senator, I wasn't entirely expecting to go down this rabbit hole with you, but I'm curious, because what I've seen, again, anecdotally amongst friends and family, is that Charlie's ideas were much more mainstream than the mainstream led us to believe. And I'm curious, and again, there's no scientific evidence to prove any of this, But in the halls of the Senate, do you at all feel any of the people on the other side of the aisle are going, oh, shoot, more people think this conservative idea than I thought because I'm sucked into the Twitter universe? Is that something that you feel anecdotally, or what is it like in the Senate?
You can absolutely feel it. This is a turning point.
Hmm.
There is a change that has occurred. You can feel the undertone, and you can feel the conversation rising. And the truth is, to your point, people tried to sideline Charlie. They tried the media intentionally because they knew how powerful both his words and his knowledge and his ability to communicate were, that they tried to make him out to be someone that he was not, so that people did not listen. And what has happened now is that all of his words and videos and conversations have come up on people's feeds, in people's and they're now actually getting to hear it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when they hear it for themselves, and they hear how and see how respectful he is and was to other people, even those who he knew had very different beliefs, he was able to find common ground to put most of them at ease even before the conversation started, but then able to have challenging conversations in a respectful way that were based in truth and fact and based in the word. And the more that people actually hear it, it's interesting to watch people who thought that they weren't a Charlie Kirk fan and believed they knew exactly who Charlie Kirk was, but yet had never heard him utter a word, who are now hearing his words and are coming into a new thought process themselves and realizing that so much of this is not only the cornerstone of our democracy and this great nation, our democratic republic, but it is actually the core of who we are. And without the Lord, none of us are ever going to reach our full potential. And our purpose, God's purpose for each and every one of our lives, is different. He calls each of us to run a different race and run a different lane. But in every one of those lanes and places that we are called to bring people to know the Lord. We are called to let people see him through us and our actions. And that's what Charlie did. And Charlie is now being heard literally around the world. His voice is in rooms that would have never allowed him to be in, and he is changing hearts and minds at a rapid pace. And I'll tell you, I have two teenagers, and the impact, I knew that Charlie had impacted their lives, but I did not know to the degree until this occurred. And
Wow.
it is rare, that my children kind of really, will, as most teenagers, kind of let you into one of these spaces. And this shook them, but it also shook them up too, in the sense that they are more determined and more diligent and more convinced than ever that they need to leave a mark just like he did. And so I think he is going to inspire people for generations to come. And Jobob, I think the more that people hear his words, the more they're going to come to know and love him. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing right now. And I would just ask you, seeing how this has affected my own home, and we did not have the privilege of having the kind of relationship that you had with Charlie. How are you, and what are you all feeling in the midst of all of this, and what are you seeing? Because I feel it not only at home and when I go to my kids' games, and I feel it in the airport when people are talking to me. I feel it in the halls of Congress. And how are you, and how are you feeling at this moment in time?
Well, I don't want to get choked up, but it's not good. My wife and I were talking the other day. It's difficult to hold our own kids without thinking about Charlie and Erica and their kids, and I don't I don't want to sound too, I guess, tenacious maybe, but also in this sadness there is much more of a this can't be let aside. This is going to be a thing that is going to affect me for the rest of my life, not even the foreseeable future, till I'm no longer no longer alive. And I think that is one of the biggest again, you obviously, I would give all of the attitudes up for the guy back, right? Nobody wanted to see any of this happen, but this is, I think, galvanized myself and the Turning Point community and just the country as a whole in a way that um, I don't think anybody could have expected. And again, the tragedy aside, I think this is exactly what Charlie would have wanted. And I think continuing to do the work that he was doing is something that I will cherish forever because of the impact that he had on me personally.
Well, thank
But
you for doing that. And just know people that would have never heard his words are hearing them, and
yeah,
they'll come up and say, "Hey, did you?" And I had misjudged him, or boy, he makes like this makes sense, and we need more of this. So it is absolutely happening, and I have seen it firsthand.
wow. Well, Senator, I'm sad that I didn't get to ask you about any of the other important issues, but I don't know. I think this conversation was much more important, and maybe we'll have you back to talk about debanking and all of the other things that are important work that continue going. But I actually I really appreciated this conversation. Thank you so much for taking it that direction.
Well, hey, I appreciate it too. And look, let's come back on. Let's talk about it. When you look at debanking, we look at what happened over the Joe Biden administration, them using reputational risk in order to literally debank conservatives. We have been standing up to that. Obviously, we've got what the president has done. We're so grateful for that. We've got legislation, but we have to continue to call it out. We've had hearings before, but we'll keep doing it if that is what is necessary to make sure that we stop this. So yeah, let's definitely talk about that. We can also talk about Democrats shutting the government down and the ridiculousness of that. And there are no shortage of topics. So I certainly look forward to coming back on.
Really, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you.